Oh, well, hello! Welcome to Unit 3. This is our first day of the second quarter and our first day of the new unit. Yay! And what we're going to do is we're going to start adding a lot more interactivity in Unit 3. Meaning we're going to learn how to make our mouse interact with our programs and our keyboard to interact with our programs. That might even make us, if possible, design games and other fun stuff. So you need the user to be able to interact with the program to have really interesting things happen. So that's what we're going to explore, user interactions, all right, through the mouse and the keyboard. Now, if you look at most websites, things are pretty interactive when you hover your mouse over them. So if this is the UPCH website, you'll see when I hover over things, they change. That gets a little darker. That turns green. That turns green. These kind of spin, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff. You'll notice it only happens when I go within these circles. These are called hover effects. And we're kind of going to learn about these hover effects today in our lesson. And specifically, what happens when we hover over circles. Like these circles over here. Ooh, this is fun. You should play with the school website. So we have to go over a little bit of mathematics first, and then just a little bit of coding to get that happen. So let's talk about this. First, let's just explore a basic ellipse. So this right here is an ellipse. You might remember the first two numbers are the center of it. So this is an ellipse or a circle that has a center at 1030. And remember, this is the width and the height. And this is a circle because it has the same width and height. But really the big thing to know here is that it has a diameter of 100. So this is a circle that has a diameter of 100. All right? See, I said it there. So the question is, how can we figure out when a mouse is over this ellipse? All right? That's what we're trying to explore here. How can I figure out when my mouse goes over the circle? Because that's when I want something to happen, only when my mouse is over it, just like on the website, right? When my mouse goes over the circle, something changes. Not when it's over here, not when it's over here, but only when it goes over. How is it doing that? How is it calculating that? Well, basically this is this. If the diameter of our circle is 100, that means the radius is 50. And the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the end of the circle, right? Anywhere on the circumference. So this distance is always 50. So from the center to anywhere on this circle is 50. It's 50 away from the center to here. All right? So let's think about this. Let's do a little thought experiment, and then we'll talk about how to decode it. So what we can do, I want you guys to think about this. How far is my mouse from the center of this circle at all times? All right? Just a guesstimate. So let's say I put my mouse over here. Oops. How far do you think the center is from this mouse? Well, if we know that from the center to the circumference is 50, we could estimate that maybe this looks like about 3 of those. So from here to here is another 50, and here to here is another 50. So maybe 150, right? And that's not inside the circle. What about if I move my mouse over here? How far is my mouse from the center of the circle? Well, from here to here is 50, so probably that's like double the distance. So if my mouse is over here, it's probably about 100 away. But if I move it here, how far is it from the center? Well, from here to here is about, from the center to the circumference is 50, so maybe if it's over here, it's like 70, maybe 75, 80. And you'll notice, how far is my mouse when it gets here? Well, that would be 50, right? Because from the center to anywhere on the circumference is 50. What if it's over here? Well, that would probably be like 40. And then the distance would be 30, and the distance would be 20, and this would be 0 because it's right on the center. But really, what we're saying is this. Whenever my mouse is less than 50 away, then it's probably over the circle. In fact, it's definitely over the circle. If my mouse is over here, it's 60 away from the center, or 70, but that's more than 50, so it's not on the circle. If my mouse is over here, it's probably about 40 away from the center, so it's definitely inside the circle. So what I'm saying is that when my mouse is only 50 or less away, 50 units or less away from the center of the circle, then it's inside the circle. If my mouse is over here, then it's more than 50 units away. Less than 50 units, more than 50 units. That's all you got to know. So how can we make it so something happens when I put my mouse over? So let's just look at this again. So what this is doing is that this circle knows that my mouse is somewhere within that circle because it knows it's less than the radius. My mouse is less than the radius away from the center. All right, and let's code that. So that's the conceptual part of this whole lesson. Let's actually do the coding. So we should probably start by making a circle. So let's make an ellipse at 200, 200, 100. All right, or 2. Yeah, we only need 3 numbers because we're working with circles. All right, so this is a circle that's at 200, 200, and has a diameter of 100. So what is the radius of this circle again? That means it's 50, right? If the diameter is 100 all the way across, that means the radius is 50, and that's the number we need. It's half of whatever our diameter is. Okay? So that means whatever my mouse is 50 units away or less from this circle, we want something to happen. So let's do this. First, let's start by making a color variable. So we'll say let circle color, as we do. We create a variable. Okay. Let's set it to a color. So we're going to say circle color is equal to a color, and let's make that color, I don't know, blue, RGB. All right, and then let's substitute, right? Let's use our circle color. Okay, now it's blue. And what I want to happen is when I hover over this circle, I want it to change to a new color. I'm going to change it to red. All right, whenever I hover over the circle, I want it to change to red. So it's probably going to be some sort of if statement. But remember, the if statement is to figure out when my mouse is inside the circle, I have to find out the distance from my mouse to the circle. The distance from my mouse to the circle. That's what we need to find out. So here's how you're going to do it. Follow these steps. We're going to make a new variable. So we're going to say let circle distance. Just circle distance. This is where we're going to figure out, we're going to store how far the mouse is from the circle. Okay? Then underneath our circle color, we're going to store something inside of this variable. We're going to say circle distance is equal to, and this is something new, you're going to use this function called dist. Dist is a P5 function. All right, this is a P5 function. Dist figures out the distance between 2 points. So if you're figuring out the distance between 2 points, what you need to supply this with is with 4 numbers, the 2 points. Now, what are the points that I'm figuring out the distance between? Well, the first one's my mouse. I want to figure out one, right? So I want my mouse X and mouse Y. So that's one thing. I want to figure out the distance between my mouse and what? The center of this circle. So that's the other point. So the 2 points are the mouse coordinate, which is mouse X, mouse Y, and the second coordinate is the center of the circle. So we'll say 200, 200. Now where did 200, 200 come from? That's right, that's the center of the ellipse. So I'm going to find out the distance between my mouse and the center of the ellipse. That'll tell us how far they are. And just to show it on the screen, what we're going to do is we're going to say text, and let's put circle distance, and we'll put that at 20, 20 like we usually do. So remember, circle distance is just a variable that tells us how far my mouse is from the center of the circle. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit over here. Okay. And so let's take a look now. If you see here, when I move my mouse away, I know this is a big, it has this decimals, that's fine. But right now my mouse is 166 units away from the circle. You'll notice as I get closer and closer to the circle, that number goes down, right? Now it's 81. I'm getting closer. Now it's in the 70s, right? And so this is all outside the circle. And what should we see when we go inside the circle? Well, when I go up into the circle, look, the distance is about 50, right? I'm 50 units away from the center of the circle. That makes sense because the diameter of our circle is 100. The radius will be 50. So when I'm touching the circle, it's about 50. And anything inside the circle is less than 50. 27, 14. As I go closer to the center, it becomes 2, right? So anywhere inside the circle, you'll see the distance is less than 50. Anywhere outside the circle, the distance is greater than 50, which remember is just half of our diameter. All right, so now that we have our distance, we're going to start doing our if statement. So let's think about this. We want the color to change if our distance from our mouse to the center is less than 50. So let's try that. So we're going to say if circle distance, right? That's where how far our mouse is from the center, is less than 50, which is half the diameter. Then we're going to change the color. So in our if statement, let's put circle color right? That's the color, and we're going to change the color to red, to 5500. And if you look, when I go over, boom, red. When I go outside, blue, red, 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 blue. Okay, that's it. So in this very long video, 10 minutes, you've learned how to, let's go over it, figure out the distance from your mouse to the center of the circle, right? We did that here. This dist function was something new for us today. We learned that dist is a function that calculates the distance between 2 points, right? Our mouse and the center of our ellipse. And then we wrote an if statement that said if our circle distance is less than half of the diameter, right, which is the radius, then we change the color. This might have been confusing for you guys, but if it should have clarified on how to make our mouse hover over things. So it's just like these, except this just spins those little images. Ours changes the circle color. All right, start your coding activity for today, and best of luck. Oh, don't forget to kiss your mother. She's put a lot of time and love into you. Just kiss her. Say, Mom, come over here. Thank you. Here's a kiss.